Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. That's Miss Anya Kitty. She's here with me, so hopefully she's not going to start calling me. That seems to be her favorite thing to do when I start these videos, is to come over and launch a claw attack. Anyway, so I was just sitting here doing some research, and I came across an article that was written by NPR, and I'm not going to give details specifically about the NPR article because I don't wish to slander anyone in particular. If you're interested in the topic, please go look at NPR. I believe it was a recent article. However, I can't guarantee that. It might be a couple years old. It came up recently in my news feed. So anyway, the headline caught me because it said that meditation can be bad, something along those lines, something about, the detriment of meditation. I almost said medication. There's detriment to both. There can be, right? We live in a polarized world where there's good and bad, everything. Not everybody experiences benefit from everything that, a majority of people may experience a benefit, or a majority could experience a detriment. So we have people on both sides of the polarity and all the stuff in between. So it caught my eye because I thought immediately when I read the title, I thought, yeah, I understand that. And coming from someone who is a spiritualist or deeply into the whole spiritual movement, seems very much, hippie-esque that I would be taking up yoga hard, meditation hard, and all these different practices, right, that are outside of mainstream stuff. And this article, when I read it, went on to specifically mention that the reason why meditation had caused such a problem for this specific retreat center, and again, I don't even remember the name of it or the specific type of meditation practice, and possibly yoga. I don't remember. I could be melding and mixing up. Basically, I just want to get in the notion of any spiritual practice, period. However, specifically launching into meditation on this talk, that particular place, that retreat center, had found major problems with a few of their clientele. Not a broad spectrum problem with their clientele. However, the few people or the number of people that came and experienced a problem had major problems with psychotic breaks and having hallucinations and all kinds of delirium, things where their psyche could not handle what was going on. Now, this article was mentioning specifically, I believe it's a yoga meditation practice. I don't remember. Again, I'm not getting into it specifically because that didn't matter to me. I've never practiced that any type of meditation or yoga, either one long-term or that had any adverse reaction in me that I kept going. I have had some meditation experiences and some guided meditation and stuff that's exactly why I'm coming in, is that it was not working for me. It was bringing up anxiety. It was bringing up all kinds of weird sensations in my body. And so I simply stopped and did not meditate again for quite some time. And now today I do my meditation in a very different way because it serves my body more to listen to what is it that I actually need, and what can I glean from this, because I have an extensive history, 17 or 18 years of being in and out of mental health facilities for sometimes long-term hospitalizations, upwards of 6 weeks, trying to deal with PTSD and just all kinds of problems that were diagnosed and really weren't meeting the mark for what I needed. A whole bunch of medications, a whole bunch of diagnoses that were just off track for what was really going on. However, I was introduced to a lot of Western medicine, psychotherapy, and Western medicine, and psychiatry, as well as some of the more, esoteric ways of dealing with stress and anxiety and things such as that, like meditation, mindfulness, yoga, all of these things. And so I come from both sides of the fence in my experience in knowing what it was to just take medication, and that certainly didn't do it on its own, and many times in my particular instance made things worse. It also did not help me to just go off my medication and think, okay, I'm going a la naturel and I'm going to start, meditating, and I'll do yoga and I'll do this and I'll do that. Yeah, that wasn't a very good track either, and really didn't last very long because I couldn't sustain anything. For me personally, what the the hardline understanding that I got out of all of that is that there's balance to be had and must be had in every single thing. And that if we're teaching people more realistically about listen to your body, because your body's the expert of you, that's the doctorate of you, that's the only psychiatrist or professional therapist or yogi master, whatever, that can really give you the guidance that would be the best for you. However, until we really hone that skill and that relationship and be able to hear that very well without being confused from old childhood programming or trauma or bullshit in our environment or any kind of mind-altering substances, whatever they are, or toxic relationships, anything that would be clouding that voice inside of us can get in the way. So until we really perfect that and can get to where we know and understand what that still voice, that inner voice inside of us that really does know what's best for us, until we can get that one really, really, really refined and honed, we do need outside intervention. At least that's been my experience, to watch other people and go through that experience myself, to be using medication, pharmaceuticals, to be using off-label pharmaceuticals sometimes, to be using illegal street drugs. I can't speak to that. I live in a state where THC is legal, and I do use that occasionally, and have used psychedelics as well. So, for me personally, I've looked at a bunch of different avenues for trying to treat the mental health issues that I was having, the mental illnesses, however they were categorized. Even though I was misdiagnosed, I still needed to come to a place of understanding that that meditation practice you're giving to me, that's not going to work for me, because I feel very agitated when I'm in this space here. And I was agitated for a bunch of different reasons. But more importantly, really what I think would be most helpful is to be teaching people that listen to your body. These are ways that we can calm our body down. These are ways that we can get through that panic attack, that anxiety attack, that, oh my God, if we can learn how to get through one of those and calm ourselves down, ideally without taking anything. However, if that's what we need to get somebody to not just completely go off the rails, then it's better for their system that they don't fry out. Please just take that little blue pill and, take half of it if that'll do it for you, rather than just zone out the whole way. But whatever, just take the pill and let's calm down, and we'll talk about that, and we'll go through how we can work through that the next time, and teach people the coping skills for how do I deal with an anxiety attack or a panic attack when it ensues. And even better, when I start getting to where I can control it, and it's not, I'm not getting taken over by it, then I can start talking about how I can avoid it. And the ways that we avoid it, oftentimes we get the whole speech about, well, get enough sleep, do this, we get the whole litany. However, what we really need is people that, if they're going to take on the job and the onus of being a life coach or a therapist or something, anything, that's guiding another person through their mental health, especially now when we're tapped so hard, maybe we give them something that's very specific for them, particularly them specifically, that if they smoke, you might say, hey, smoking increases the heart rate, and perhaps that's not adding anything to you. However, if I hadn't had a woman who was clear on the fact that I smoked a lot. I smoked almost 2 packs a day for a very long time. And that for me was a time when I could calm down, a time whenever my breathing was very regulated because I was inhaling and I was reading. It was the only time that I ever read, and I was reading self-help books, which seemed like it was in direct conflict to what she was saying. However, she said, let's not worry too much about that stop smoking thing. I know you got a lot of outside influence and a lot of people saying about it. However, let's not really talk about that as your priority right now. Let's talk about how we can take that feeling that you're having of being relaxed, and took the shame element out of the fact that I was smoking, took that away. She looked at me as my whole composite person, not just as the medical model that says people shouldn't smoke, drink, or rat their hair, or curse, or, anything like that. That's bad. She looked at me as my person, took in the whole person of me and said, well, what's the priority here? And she realized that that if we can get this woman to understand that it's not the shame of smoking, because, you know, I got no investment in you smoking or not there, Kate, that's your business. I want to see you well. And what's the faster track to getting you well? For me personally, it was, let's talk about what we can do to get that transferred feeling of, I feel at peace, I feel calm, I feel, you know, okay with myself when I'm reading my book, having my cigarette, I'm outside, I'm getting fresh air, you know. And how can we have you, when you're done with your cigarette and you close your book, how can we get that feeling to transfer back to the inside of your house and inside your life again when you return to that? Because obviously, even if you smoked 3 packs a day, you're not going to be able to just completely smoke all day, every day, and maintain that feeling. So obviously, you know, we're looking for a way that we can transfer that. How can we get that to continue happening, that feeling that you have? And what I uncovered in long chats with her about that, like once a week, you know, for an hour at a time, sometimes 3 times a week, you know, she was called a therapist. She wasn't my friend, but she acted very kindly and very much like a mentor and a guide, which I appreciated greatly, that I was more than just a medical model, that she asked me to, you know, think about what it is that's about that experience. And I realized and uncovered the fact that that's when I feel like I have the most agency over my life. That's when I feel like I have the most control. It's my cigarette, my lighter, my choice of cigarette. You know, I ain't smoking somebody else's rag stuff here. I ain't smoking out here on somebody else's deck, you know, not enjoying the view. I'm here with the book that I choose to read. Nobody's here with a gun to my head telling me I have to read this particular something or other. This is all by my choice. And yeah, this is not, you know, the healthiest choice to be smoking, you know, cigarettes. However, the rest of this, it's all my choice that's, you know, pretty darn healthy, you know, that I'm outside, I'm enjoying, you know, what I see outside, I'm reading something self-help, and I'm engaging my mind. So that really opened up that whole corridor of understanding that this is about you having agency over your life. And how about we learn to have agency over more than just, you know, those 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 minutes that you're taking outside? You know, how can we take that same agency and move it into the inside of your life, you know, where you're having more of that everywhere in your life? And it didn't happen overnight. It did not. Unfortunately, as I was starting to really uncover some juicy stuff there, she was retiring, and my family and I, at the time, my family and I were moving. And so we were going to be parting ways anyway. And shortly after, you know, I did that, within a couple of years, I was in a major transition going through divorce. And here I am, and I no longer smoke. And, you know, the obesity that I had carried for a huge portion of my adult life, you know, started slimming down a lot of things, because it opened up that doorway of, please don't just give me the tropes of, you know, that meditation and eat right, get sleep, you know, don't smoke, don't drink, don't rat your hair, you know, don't do all of this stuff that many of the Western medicine philosophy was already telling me. But even in the Eastern traditions, or in, you know, the spiritual traditions where I was, you know, rooting around hard, you know, I'm looking over here, I was looking everywhere. And it seemed like a very common answer is, well, you know, just go ahead and meditate, go ahead and do some yoga, do this, do that. And I found that by listening to my own body about what my own body needed, sometimes it needed more rigorous activity, but it could be very meditative for me, because that was getting me into my zone. You know, it's sort of like Olympic athletes, you know, they may or may not be doing, you know, real slow yogic movement, right? They could be doing something a lot more aggressive, and probably are, and yet they're in that zone. And that's really what I needed to learn, what I needed to hone, was the ability of, let's get into that space where you're really concentrating and you're paying attention to it. It's getting your heart rate down, you know, learning how to get out of that panic state, learning how to keep from getting to that panic state with all these great ideas. However, what's going to be one of the things we can do right now? Is it going to be this type of exercise? Is it going to be journaling, perhaps? Is it going to be finger painting? Is it going to be working with clay? Is it going to be out digging in the garden? Is it going to be taking a drive, riding a bike? What is it going to be that will work for me? And I found, for me personally, I'm a pretty, you know, hop, skip, and jump kind of gal. I like to, you know, look at a bunch of different things. I'm just kind of, you know, an ADD, the model example of, you know, an autism me, that I'm interested in a million different things. And so rather than have somebody tell me that meditation is where you learn that discipline and you need to do it this way and this, and that wasn't working for me, and it was frustrating the bejesus right out of me, it was understand that meditation meditation or that practice of becoming very disciplined can bring up more anxiety and cause more brain cracking and brain breaking for you personally, Kate, than if you were to allow yourself to get very intensely involved for 15 minutes on reading an article and understanding that and picking it apart, or working on a puzzle, or going and watching horses in a field, or sitting on the beach and watching the waves coming in, or actually getting in the water and body surfing, or roller skating, or skateboarding, or doing any number of things. They weren't always activities, but they were definitely not related to sitting in, a particular position, being still. That for me and my body brought up more anxiety until I could release a lot of the stress and the built up in my body. Trying to sit still with that stuff would absolutely bring up the feelings of anxiety and the feelings of, oh dear, I'm sitting duck here. And some of that stuff, even still, I can do, quiet meditation. There's not a problem with it. I meditate as I go to sleep every night. However, formalized for an hour or 10 hours a day, I can understand that article about why it would cause people to have psychotic breaks, because some of us are just wired differently, and every one of us has been through PTSD at this point with global pandemic, in our recent past. We've all experienced, oh my goodness, to the nth degree. And so, we've got that built up in our bodies. It's in our understanding, in our muscles, and in our energy, and in our nerves where, we've been pent up. And so we may not have that body constitution, and we may not have the brain, background to put up with suddenly we're just going to find peace and quiet with meditation and being still and yoga. And different types of yoga can absolutely promote different types of energy being released through our body. And if we're not ready for that, holy cow, it can make us, quite overly charged in a lot of different directions that we may not understand or know how to deal with or cope with or manage. And we may have this great, euphoric experience and then come crashing down to the other side, some undetermined amount of time later, which looks a whole lot like, a psychotic break. So, and it may not in fact be that. However, it certainly can, and it can initiate one very easily. So what I'm saying is, as I read this, it reminded me so much of all the different practices, some of the basic ones of journaling, and meditating, just being in a quiet space, but journaling, art therapy, reading articles that just, really I found very interesting, or reading children's books, listening to music, dancing to things that were popular in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and really revisiting things that were very resonant to me when I was a child. Swinging in an adult swing, that was one of the best, man. We need to have way more adult parks out there. Doing things that served me when I was a child really helped connect me when I could not sit down and be still, in a meditation for 5 or 10 minutes. It brought up anger. Sometimes it brought up just this rage of, why the F am I sitting here? This is stupid. These little white light ladies with their, robes and crap, and got all this angel music playing. I mean, I would get into these fits of rah, and now I better understand it, because I wasn't anywhere near being able to sit still with myself. And there wasn't any shame in that until someone that was, one of those that could go for 10 hours a day would say, well, I used to be where you are too. Stop shaming people. We are where we are, and it wasn't until that therapist said, I don't care if you smoke or not, your long-term health, you already know it's compromised by smoking. We know that from science. I don't have to tell you that. You're a grown woman, and I'm not here to, tell you that. I'm here to help you with your overall mental health. And part of your mental health right now is that's what's keeping you from, going off the rails. Then let's find out how we can use whatever benefit you're getting from that. Let's see if we can reproduce that, because if you can reproduce that, then you can reproduce it again. That's the science thing. Let's bring that in. If you can do it once, then you can duplicate it again. You've got the formula. You might not remember or know, or it might have been quite by accident, but we're going to keep working on how do you duplicate that again and again and again and again and again. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I just stopped smoking, that day. It was still another couple of years. However, it very naturally went away. I didn't hit a day when I said, okay, that's going to be the last day, and still occasionally, the last time's been probably at least a year maybe or more. But occasionally, even still, I will have an urge for one, and then I'll really think about it and go, do I really want that cigarette? And sometimes I do, and I go get them, and I smoke one or two, and okay, thanks, I appreciate it. Now I know why I don't do that anymore, because it's not bringing me the same thing that it used to. So thanks, I appreciate that $15 exercise in futility and waste. However, it meets that part of me that has agency to decide, that one part of me was having quite a great deal of agency, and I want to smoke. However, the more prevailing part of me now is the agency of, I would like to not smell like cigarettes. I'd like to, not have that cough, the smoker's hack, that cough. I would rather not have, my teeth involved that way. I'd, just rather not smell like that, and I'd rather not have the health risk. That's the agency that's more prevalent. However, neither one of those is going to get helped with being shamed by someone out here, saying you shouldn't do that. If there's a reason that I was smoking, there was a reason that I was doing all of those very self-destructive things that I was doing. And she actually just opened up that door by saying, if these things aren't working for you, please stop, because meditation wasn't working, and doing all these quiet things. I'm not a quiet person sometimes. I need to have a lot of activity. I'm a high activity chick, At the time, though, I was barely moving throughout my day, So, it was a pretty hard sell to believe that I was going to be able to do anything except take agency over this and know that that's exactly what you're doing. And it's okay. And let's find a way to take agency in some other places. And, I'm not taking this personally, Kate. If you don't stop smoking tomorrow, I'm still going to see you, next week, because she was a very kind and loving and compassionate therapist who had really great boundaries about, we're not mother-daughter here. We're not sisters, and we're not friends. I'm your therapist. However, I care very much about you, and I want you to get well. I want you to find a place where you can believe that you are truly as wonderful and delightful a person as I think you are and I see you are. That was a hard sell when I first went to her, because I'd been to every other therapist that had a very strange relationship with me, either because of their own baggage or because here's your, Western medicine model of patient. This is what you do. There's the psychiatric models that you go through. This is the diagnosis, blah, 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 blah. That was just my experience. Not saying that that's how it is for every single person, because she was a Western trained therapist as well. She just had a very different understanding of, how can I reach this woman who understands all these things, and she's tried all these things, and they're really not doing a whole lot for her. They're bringing up more frustration, and they're bringing up more depression and sadness, because this should be working. And I guess I'm just irretractable. I'm hopeless. There's nothing. This is just going to go on forever. There's nothing that can help me, which is pretty much where I stood. That I've journaled about 5 million pages now, and I get plenty of rest. I make sure of that with all the stuff I take every day, and it was an exercise in futility, frustration, and I hated my life. And I saw her for a long time, for 8 years or more, 8 or 9 years, and it wasn't like that for the first couple of years, because it took her a couple of years of just being able to build that trust and the rapport that there's nothing you're going to say or do that's going to make me hate you, Kate, unless, it gets violent up in here, There's really nothing you could say. You can be honest with me, because she didn't get butthurt. She was the first time, especially out of my personal relationships, those got butthurt all the time. We all did. But she was the first professional that didn't treat me like I was stupid, that engaged me in my own diagnosis and my own treatment plan going forward, and how I was going to do that with her guidance. I mean, she wasn't going to let me go off the rails unless I just left her practice, but I didn't want to, because she included me in what she was trying to do without bringing all the, the mystery of the history of she went to school. I don't need to know all that stuff. I just need to know that, hey, if I have a question about this, what do you have in thoughts about this? And if I brought things to her, she would, talk to me about different suggestions I had, and she would bring things that she found. I found all kinds of things because she was treating me like I was a grown-up person that had the ability to be much more in charge of my own mental health. health and have more complete agency of my own body, my mind, and my soul. Because at the time, I didn't have any of it anywhere. I was just out there, lost soul everywhere. And she was a catalyst, ironically enough, when spirituality is where I landed and where I get, the most benefit. And I don't do any of the Western medicine. I don't do psychiatry, psychology, therapy, none of it anymore. Just my own personal choice is that I do not require that kind of support anymore. However, I thought it interesting that it was a woman trained in Western medicine that introduced me to the ways of how to really treat my body and get in touch with my soul, so that I would know how to go forward, and that as I need to deal with my mental health, every day that I go forward from those days when I started getting off of all the medications, they've been made with the careful understanding that I'm not denouncing what is Western medicine and going only with the a la naturel, because that doesn't work for me. And I'm not suggesting that anybody make an either or choice. That's why we get into problems, is we get people who say, well, if you just meditate 10 hours a day, you'll be fine. Yeah, and it makes some people, just break into a million pieces, and sometimes they're not very well retrieved, and they're going to be very damaged by the experience, for years to come, when something a little more moderated and specifically tailored to what their needs are, if those people can be identified by just simply saying, look, this is something that we're teaching here, and what we want you to know is that if you feel anything strange, if you, feel any sensation that bothers you, if you feel apprehension, it's not a one-size-fits-all. There isn't anything on this planet that's a one-size-fits-all, in my humble opinion, except for teaching people what size fits them. Teach them how to identify that. Learn what fits you, and not what other people tell you should fit you, because meditation is good for everybody. Mindfulness is good for everybody. A lot of things are good for a lot of people, and, the few people over here that it sucks for, well, it really sucks for you. Well, I like to speak up for that one, because I frequently was that one and was shamed and made to feel like I was just non-compliant or grumpy, grouchy, lazy. I mean, fill in any word you want to. That would, really leave me feeling quite disempowered and stupid, and, just hopeless, like she's just a hopeless mess. And when you have professionals kind of shaking their head like, okay, it's kind of hard not to feel like it when I don't feel like I have any value or any worth. And yet, wow, I learned through smoking that, hey, it's okay to smoke. I'm not going to drill your head into the ground with that. That's not my job. Then let's go from there. And it's ironic, isn't it, that Western medicine trained therapist and caught me with, here's planting the seed through you smoking, 2 packs a day and weighing 300 pounds. That's where it came, was that conversation, because she genuinely cared about me. She genuinely saw me as something more than I could see. And, people just blindly saying, well, you're so smart, you're so this. We can tell, at least I could, as an empath, and very, very able to read people's, not in their minds, but just read that whole, like, yeah, this whole package you got going here, it's all full of shit, because you don't care. You're just saying, you're smart, you're bright, you're obviously articulate. Yeah, okay, well, we could have a conversation and come up with that. We don't have to stretch too hard, and then to go on with this is probably what you tell every other client after me, and the same that you said before me, that you can do anything you put your mind to. That's what it felt like. And yet she was very specifically bringing to me, these are things from talking to you, knowing your life, and applying it to your specific situation, and listening to me rather than just giving me the, oh, well, you're obviously not meditating correctly. You're obviously not doing that yoga practice very correctly, or you're obviously not getting enough rest or exercise, or it's obviously the candy that you're eating. Well, it could be, a lot of things. However, taking away that whole shame thing, I felt like this woman knew me better than anybody I knew in my entire life, and she didn't even know, personal details about me other than, the stuff that was relevant to the therapy we were doing. And I felt very close to her, like a mother figure, and yet I understood and was very clear and very happy that I'm so glad that I feel the connection to you like a mother figure, but I ain't got all the emotional baggage with you. Like, I love the fact that you can play my mother and my mentor, one time, two times, three times a week, sometimes. I love that. And I get to get in my car and go home, because even if I'm mad at you, or mad at something that you're saying or calling me on my doo-doo, that I'm not going to be mad for long. I'm going to feel my bruised ego. I'm going to go home and chew on that and say, what did she say about that, and how does that apply? And realize that it doesn't matter, because I'm going to walk in, the next time, and it's going to be the same exact level of commitment to this job and to what we're doing here that I get from her, whether I show up kind of grumbling and mumbling about it, or whether I took the ego blow and went, okay, yeah, she was correct about that, or if I had some question about it. I mean, there just wasn't any of that, crappy, snotty personal relationship stuff. And it's not very realistic to believe that I would have impersonal personal relationships with everybody in my life, but damn, that lady really showed me a lot about boundaries of how intimate relationships can be. She was kind of a working model of what intimate relationships could be in my life, because we had an intimate relationship by virtue of the fact that intimate details about me. That makes it real intimate for me. Intimate relationships to me are ones where their vulnerability is expressed. Now, she wasn't sharing hers, and that was soups important, because she was a mother figure, and I don't want to know the intimate details, the vulnerabilities and stuff that, the oversharing and the lack of boundaries and things that I've known from, figures in my life. That's too far. We have too much of an enmeshed relationship. So even though I didn't know intimate details about her, even on the most basic scale, it was really nice, because it gave me that working model of, this is how you go from having agency over smoking your cigarette over here. Is I'm going to continue to show you in these sessions how it is to deal with people and share intimate details about yourself, and learn about boundaries with people when they're saying, that might be something that you wouldn't want to share out there somewhere, in a very kind and loving way. And also, hey, I'm observing this about you, and it's really awesome. Have you noticed this about yourself? And no, I really haven't. Or I noticed this about the conversation you were mentioning regarding that. Might be that you want to pull back there, or share this part and not that, or whatever. I mean, there was just such neutrality in everything that she said, and that brought it, really, the more I think about it over time, it's been years since I saw her, at least 10, that over that amount of time, she will come back into my mind, and I think, oh, how impactful it was to learn just how many different things that I gained from that experience of neutrality with her, that not taking a side, not having an investment emotionally in what I was doing. She had an emotional investment to the degree that she wanted to be doing her job and doing it very well. However, it wasn't tied into me and my person and, what I was doing. And I wasn't going to walk away, feeling butthurt over something she said, because it was a grown-up relationship, and it was established from the beginning that's what this is. And then being able to transfer that information to another format where this makes more sense for me to deal in this kind of impersonal way with the people around me. And, it took a while. It took a while to, crawl, walk, run. And I was definitely not even crawling well whenever I met her. So anyway, I hope that's made sense. This is far longer than I had intended it to be, but I do hope that this has made sense and been helpful to you in some way. And I hope that you have a beautiful day, no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. It's absolutely fine. And if it's telling you, go ride a bike instead of sitting down, and listening to quiet music, or go listen to, whatever music instead of this or that, or whatever it is, or if you play the violin, anything that is bringing your heart a sense of agency and creativity, something that really speaks to you, whatever it is. And even if you're bouncing around, finding different things, if it's keeping that part of you happy, if it's keeping that part of you with that sense of peace and balance, even if you're out, skiing, doing 90 miles an hour, if it's keeping you in a place of peace and true agency over yourself and your life, then please find those activities. whatever they are, because the whole spectrum is available to us, and we don't all live just in the middle of, one spectrum. We're all on different spectrums, and what our middle is might be over here compared to yours over there, and nobody's right or wrong if it's keeping them in a place where they can stay mentally balanced, regardless of what the outdoor activities are or how we reach that indoor activity of balance. So good luck to you on your journey, and I hope you have a beautiful day. As I said, enjoy getting within your skin because you're divine. It is so, 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 so beautiful, blessed, and fine. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye, my friends.